We are now live to YouTube. All right. Good evening, everyone. Bienvenue. Welcome, Anine. I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging with respect that we're on Robinson Huron Treaty territory and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Madam Clerk. Oh, Madam Clerk, before we commence the official portion of the agenda, Councillor Hollingsworth, I'd like to say a few words.
Thank you. In our community, we have a strong arts council, and I just want to recognize that over the weekend, there was a special anniversary that took place, and many Siouxites did attend. It was basically the Sioux Theatre Gala, and I just want to give kudos to the whole group that celebrated this significant anniversary. They did an outstanding job to recognize the talent of those in Sault Ste. Marie and those that were part of the Sioux Theatre in the past who have gone on to go into careers around theatre and have done well. As you know, Sault Ste. Marie has many great volunteers, many talented people, and this is just one example of great success. So I just want to say congratulations for a job well done on Friday and Saturday, and to thank all those that went out to support this very valuable group to Sault Ste. Marie. So again, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Madam Clerk.
Under agenda item 2, adoption of minutes, a motion by councillors Bruni and Zagordo resolve that the minutes of the regular council meeting of April 11th, 2023 be approved.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Under agenda item 4, declaration of pecuniary interest, I have 2 declarations. One for Councillor Spina on the Tourism Development Fund applications. The councillor is chair of the Charity Foundation for the Community Strong Festival, and one from Councillor Caputo with regards to changes to temporary outdoor patios under the Liquor License and Control Act update, owns an establishment with a temporary outdoor patio.
Anyone else, Council? Councillor Gardy?
Yeah, I think it was 7.10. The Transit Pass partnership with the Superior Catholic District School Board. I'm employed with them, so I'd like to clarify.
Thank you. We will note that. Seeing no others, Madam Clerk.
Under agenda item 5, a motion or approve agenda as presented, a motion by councillors Bruni and Zagordo resolve that the agenda for May 1st, 2023 City Council meeting as presented be approved.
All in favor? Motion carries. Got a number of proclamations to read, and I can start with the proclamation for Menstrual Health Day. Whereas Menstrual Health Day highlights the importance of menstrual equity and public education that advocates for equitable access to proper menstrual hygiene. And whereas this day raises awareness about the challenges that women, girls, and gender diverse people experience due to menstruation, it also highlights the importance of menstrual hygiene. And whereas it is time to speak positively about periods and help end the stigma around them, while understanding the need for equality, including providing marginalized communities with access to free menstrual hygiene products that reduce period poverty in our community. And whereas through open dialogue, we can work to promote equitable access to hygiene needs and products. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as Mayor of the City of Sault Ste. Marie, do hereby proclaim May 28th, 2023 as Menstrual Health Day in Sault Ste. Marie and encourage support of organizations and individuals committed to raising awareness about the needs of the community through education to ensure the health and well-being of our community is improved. I believe we've got Leanne Sinclair here to speak on for World Menstrual Health Day. Okay, seeing that she is not here, we've got a proclamation for Jewish Heritage Month, and we've got Tova and Jeff Arbus here. Speak if they wish, but I can read the proclamation first. Whereas the Jewish population in Canada is approximately 400,000 people, more than 1% of our country's total population, making it the fourth largest Jewish population in the world. And whereas the Jewish community has a long, proud history in Canada and continues to make contributions in a wide range of endeavors to our well-being, growth, and prosperity, while overcoming tremendous obstacles. And whereas Sault Ste. Marie has benefited and continues to benefit from the contributions and leadership of the local Jewish community from the establishment of the Congregation Beth Jacob in 1945 to the local service clubs and institutions supported by volunteers who were and are members of the Jewish community, to the several successful and long-standing businesses opened by Jewish business people. And whereas Parliament has designated the month of May as Canadian Jewish Heritage Month in recognition of the important contributions Jewish Canadians have made to our country's social, economic, political, and cultural fabric. And whereas B'nai B'rith is a Jewish human rights organization that has been active since 1875, it has invited municipalities to enhance Parliament's declaration of Canadian Jewish Heritage Month by adopting their own proclamations and promoting the celebration of the Heritage Month each May, and as May is meaningful for the Jewish community around the world. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Canadian Jewish Heritage Month and encourage the community to learn more about the heritage and contributions of Jewish Canadians and to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. Ms. Arbus. Welcome to Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Shoemaker and esteemed councillors and everyone else who's here today. I appreciate this opportunity very much. It means a lot to us to have these types of proclamations, and this feels really important to be here. So you did introduce me a little bit, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Tova Arbus. I was born and raised here in Sault Ste. Marie and grew up in Congregation Beth Jacob, and I am the current president of that synagogue. I have also been part of many different organizations, volunteer-driven and community grassroots organizations that are having these conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that being able to have these moments is part of that action-based work that we do together. It is meaningful to the Jewish community to hear these words said and to feel like the community around us recognizes that we are part of and contributing to this city and this community that we're all so proud of. The Jewish community here has enjoyed over 100 years of involvement in the community, although Jewish presence in this area dates back much farther than that. And if you take a walk down Queen Street, you can still see reminders of just how vibrant the contributions of the Jewish community have been. Some really recognizable landmarks on Queen Street include the Davis Block and also Himmel's Ready to Wear, and there's still a tile there in the sidewalk. And if you haven't noticed it, do the walk. We can take a little tour. And just thinking about all the people who've contributed to our community, some of which were members of my own Jewish community. We are proud and grateful to be in a partnership with the city, doing this important work as part of our overall commitment to diversity and inclusion. And I appreciate that we're doing this in meaningful action-based ways so that it's not just words on paper, but that we can take those actions out into community and work together to make sure that our city continues to be a safe and inclusive space for everyone. I thank you all for doing this important and necessary work, and I look forward to continuing that partnership on behalf of the Jewish community, on continuing that partnership together. May we always make these strides towards safer spaces for all. Thank you very much.
Toda rabba, Tova. I've got a proclamation for World Migratory Bird Day. And Ron Prickett is here, speaking on behalf of his organization. So whereas in the last 50 years, North American bird populations have dropped by more than 25% and 3 million birds are gone. And whereas birds can also provide a boost to the economy and ecotourism with diverse spin-off potential. And whereas Sault Ste. Marie is working towards becoming a Nature Canada certified bird-friendly city and will be working with local partners across the community to improve bird habitat in Sault Ste. Marie. And whereas World Migratory Bird Day is an annual awareness campaign that highlights the need for conservation of migratory birds and their habitat, and celebrating World Migratory Bird Day is a mandatory criteria the city must fulfill in order to be a bird-friendly city certified. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as mayor of the city of Sault Ste. Marie, do hereby proclaim May 13th, 2023 as World Migratory Bird Day in Sault Ste. Marie, and encourage residents in our community to do their part to make our community bird-friendly today and for future generations. Mr. Prickett, welcome to council.
Thank you, Mayor Schumacher and councillors and staff. My name is Ron Prickett. I'm the president of Sault Ste. Marie Naturalists of Michigan and Ontario. You've heard of the canary in the coal mine story, where canaries in bygone days were kept in cages in coal mines. If the canary in the cage dies, the air in the coal mine must be toxic. And this was a warning to get the miners out and clear the air. Well, the analogy unfortunately applies today to the situation of our world. The canaries represents all of our feathered friends, and the coal mines represent our world as we know it. However, the big difference is that there is no planet B where we can go and escape the toxic air, the toxic environment. The birds, the canaries are disappearing at an alarming rate. This is a tragic warning. We must take care of planet A by saving the canaries, our feathered friends. We make the coal mine, our planet A, safe for all. It is with great pride that the Sioux Nats recognize the efforts of City Council to seek to be designated a bird-friendly city. Our Sioux Nats part is to organize an outing to Whitefish Island and Fort Creek on World Migratory Bird Day, May 13th. This adventure is open to everyone. The purpose is to report to each bird all the species that we observe on that day. It supports data analysis on the health of our migrating species. Thank you for your efforts to make Sault Ste. Marie a bird-friendly city, because a bird-friendly city saves the birds, ultimately in the big picture, our planet, and it saves us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Got a proclamation for National Doctors Day. And Dr. Adrienne Kelly is here, speaking on behalf of local doctors. Whereas on May 1st, 2023, hospitals and municipalities across Canada will observe National Doctors Day by celebrating the talented and caring physicians who faithfully serve our community. And whereas the city recognizes that local doctors have an incredibly important role to play in the health and well-being of our citizens, and whereas healthcare today is more complex than ever, with more advancements, tools, and information at their fingertips, doctors have an overwhelming job to diagnose and treat their patients every day. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as mayor of the city of Sault Ste. Marie, do recognize May 1st, 2023 as National Doctors Day in Sault Ste. Marie, and encourage citizens to express gratitude for the care provided by their local physicians. Dr. Kelly, welcome to council. And since it's May 1st today, thank you for the care and healthcare provided to citizens in our community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. As Mayor Shoemaker said, my name is Dr. Adrienne Kelly. I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in the Sioux, and I grew up here, and I'm very proud to be back working here. And I'm honored today to be here to represent my 43,000 Ontario Medical Association colleagues as we celebrate Doctors' Day. For Doctors' Day this year, the OMA invited communities across the province to raise a flag to display their thanks to physicians for all they do. I'm very grateful that Sault Ste. Marie has chosen to participate. I love being a part of this community, and I'm humbled by the city's acknowledgement and appreciation of our work. I would like to thank Mayor Shoemaker for this invitation and to all of you for being here. Support for Ontario's doctors has never been more important with physician burnout at an all-time high and our healthcare system in crisis. Doctors' Day was introduced in 2011 when it was officially declared a day of celebration by the Ontario government. May 1st was specifically chosen because it was the birthday of Dr. Emily Stowe, the first female physician in Ontario. Every day we are entrusted with the lives and well-being of our patients, and we have a responsibility to provide the best care possible. We face challenging situations, difficult decisions, and high-pressure environments, yet we continue to persevere because we know that our work makes a difference in people's lives. Doctors' Day celebrates the pride we feel and the work that we do every day on behalf of our patients and on behalf of this province. We must also acknowledge that we are not alone in our efforts. We work alongside nurses, healthcare assistants, therapists, and countless other professionals who all contribute to the care and well-being of our patients. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought into focus the importance of teamwork, collaboration, and empathy in healthcare. We have seen how together we can overcome even the most daunting challenges. Doctors are in a unique position and must earn the trust of their patients, and they must renew that trust on an ongoing basis. The reason we mark Doctors' Day is in part to celebrate quality patient care and the many other contributions that doctors make to keeping Ontarians safe and healthy. As leaders in our health system, we advocate for changes to the system that will improve the experience for patients and providers. In 2021, the OMA launched a historic policy roadmap for Ontario, which recommended 87 initiatives, of which many are in various stages of implementation and proposed legislation by the Ontario government. The OMA will continue to work with government and health system partners to ensure as many of these recommendations as possible get implemented. As doctors, we are determined to do what is best for our patients and our shared health system. We will go out of our way to overcome system barriers to ensure our patients get what they need. We are rewarded daily by your gratitude, and today's show of appreciation has reaffirmed our commitment to our patients and our profession. Thank you again, Mayor Shoemaker and the community of Sault Ste. Marie for raising a flag in appreciation of your doctors. Happy Doctors' Day.
And thank you again. I've got a proclamation for Child and Youth Care Week, and I see a number of blue shirts here to celebrate. So whereas child and youth care practitioners transform the lives of children, youth, and their families who face adversity in the areas of mental health, behavioral concerns, social, emotional issues, developmental delays, addiction, trauma, and abuse. And whereas child and youth care practitioners follow the best practice principles, providing support to children, youth, and families using therapeutic skills in counseling and group work with individuals and families in a variety of settings, and are bound by the ethical code of a caring profession established by the Ontario Association of Child and Youth Care. And whereas, given the rising number of children, youth, and families in distress in our community, we want to highlight the important and critical work of local child and youth care practitioners are doing in our schools, agencies, daycares, and in residential care. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as Mayor of the City of Sault Ste. Marie, do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st to May 5th as Child and Youth Care Week in the City of Sault Ste. Marie. And I invite Donna Mansfield up. She wants to say a few words. Welcome to Council, Ms. Mansfield.
You may, others might join me just to show the presence again, but
Please do.
thank you so much for having us here today. We're just so proud to speak about our program and speak about the incredible work that child and youth care practitioners do in Sault Ste. Marie and across the province. One of the things that it came to mind as I was sitting here thinking about our program is not only do we, if I look at all of you, and you probably have, not all of you will have grandchildren, but some of you will like me. You will remember the days where maybe child and youth care workers were working actively in your schools as child and youth workers. Now the name has kind of changed. It has changed to EA, but it's still our team. Very skilled, very trained child and youth care workers that are providing support to many of your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors' friends, and the families, right, that are also struggling in our community. So we're very, very proud of that. And I think one of the things that we really wanted to recognize today with this proclamation, that two things. One, this is happening across the province. It is OACYC, so it's Ontario Child and Youth Care Week across Ontario. So students from all our colleges are being recognized. Professionals in the community are being are being recognized for the work they're doing. In Sault Ste. Marie, we can be really proud. Hi, Tessa. We can be really, really proud of the fact that child and youth workers opened the first what's the name? The child unit. So it's now called the CAP unit, but at the time it was called the Child and Adolescent unit. That was opened by child and youth care workers in our community. The schools, and Ron, you'll remember this, the Catholic schools had youth support workers or child support workers, I believe, that was also began and ran by child and youth care workers for quite a long time in our community until funding shifted. So we can be really proud, I think, as a community of child and youth care practitioners. And I know that there's some child and youth workers here too, so that might be more familiar for some of you. We can be really proud of that work. And what our field brings that might be a little different than others. Sometimes we find that people don't really know what we do. We don't do daycare. We actually work with someone's social, emotional, physical, mental health to support that. I know the schools are getting, or the provinces are getting incentive. I think it's $50 million to support young people in working on and creating preventative programs around mental health. Child and youth care practitioners are your people to be able to do that work. And I know I just watched today, I have to tell you this story. I know I might be taking a wee bit of time, but I have to tell you this story. One of our grads came today for our grade 8 tours at the college, and she was sitting there with a young person. And the young person said, I did this activity with them, with music and drawing. And I said, how are you feeling? What's happening for you after you've drawn this picture? And he looked at me and he went, oh, I just feel so passionate about what I want to do in this world. And I feel very courageous. I feel very proud of myself. That's what child and youth workers do. That's what we bring to your children, to your families. We recognize the strengths that families have. We bring forward real life, in process solutions to people's struggles. We recognize that we all are one crisis away from a struggle in this world, right? So no judgment, just let's move forward. Let's find the strength and help celebrate the gifts. I want to highlight as well that my professor was here. So Jeff Arbus taught me 40 years ago. I know I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but we've all been taught. Those of us that teach in the program, it's not about the program, it's more about the people, but we also were all taught here in Sault Ste. Marie. So super proud of all of that as well, right? So I just want to send out a huge, just a thank you to all of you for listening today and being here today. And letting us come here today, but also to all the child and youth workers, all child care workers, practitioners that are out there every day dealing with children who are really struggling with, do I even leave my house today? I'm really scared, or I don't know how to do my work, and how to compose with my friends, or my parents just split up, or I have an addiction, right? Or young people are struggling with addiction, with lots of issues around sexual abuse and sexual assault. We are there and can support them, and we're really proud that we're able to do that. So we want to share that message. I just wonder if Karen Hudson might say a few words. Because I just asked her to do this 2 minutes.
Yeah, she did. She really did. But thank you. And I know we've had to quite a bit. I'll be as quick as I can, but honestly, just I know she asked me as the chair of community services and interdisciplinary studies at Sault College, and who champions these fabulous faculty that teach these great students that go off and work into multiple organizations that many of you oversee. We really want to urge that CYC should be seen as an essential service. And that's really what we want you to bring back to your organizations as the city is recognizing this proclamation. As a parent, I have a child with a very rare exceptionality. And fortunately, we have been lucky to have an amazing team of support. I'm looking right at Corey as I'm saying that. And many of you know him, but he has thrived as a result of having these professionals work with him. So I really want you to take that back to your organizations and really champion hiring qualified CYCs. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Got a proclamation for World Press Freedom Day. Whereas a healthy professional news media is essential for the proper functioning of civil society and democracy at the local, regional, federal, and international levels. And whereas UNESCO has declared World Press Freedom Day as an annual observance each May 3rd. And whereas the Public Policy Forum has declared that real news is in crisis in this country. And whereas, according to the Local News Research Project, 470 news outlets in 335 communities across Canada have closed since 2008. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as Mayor of the City of Sault Ste. Marie, do hereby proclaim May 3rd, 2023 as World Press Freedom Day in Sault Ste. Marie. And the final one is a proclamation for Falun Dafa. Whereas Falun Dafa is an ancient Chinese cultivation practice of mind and body involving gentle exercises, meditation, and the guiding principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. And whereas since public teaching began in 1992, millions of people have experienced great improvements in their physical health and moral character. And whereas this year, over 100 million people from over 100 countries across the world will celebrate the 31st anniversary of World Falun Dafa Day and stand united together for the freedom to practice without oppression and to live by the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Now, therefore, I, Matthew Shoemaker, as Mayor of the City of Sault Ste. Marie, do hereby proclaim May 13th, 2023 as World Falun Dafa Day in Sault Ste. Marie. Madam Clerk.
Sorry. That'll bring us to the consent agenda.
Okay, Council. Anybody with matters on consent? Councillor Hollingsworth.
If I may, before we jump in, I just want to say I'm happy to see the closed caption tonight for people with disabilities. So I think that's a wonderful start for accessibility. And I know that we're working on improving it, but it's nice to see the closed caption. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Very nice to see for sure. Anyone with items on consent? Okay, seeing none, I just want to recognize, okay, Councillor Bruni, go ahead. I waited too long. Just your mic, Councillor Bruni.
Start off with agenda item 7.5, tenders for the equipment, I guess to Mr. Girardi. Mr. Girardi, on a couple of them, there's only one bid. Can you explain, are these specially type pieces of equipment or there's just wondering?
Yes, that's exactly. There's so many, you're limited on what your suppliers are these days. And of course, there still is the challenges with getting equipment. So these were the two that were in two items, rather, we were only able to get one person submit, but the tenders are acceptable to all parties. So we're moving forward with it.
Okay, thank you. Vacant agenda item 7.6, vacant unit rebate.
Just before we get to that, Councillor Bruni, anyone else on 7.5?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I didn't imagine so, but better to ask.
Thanks. Who am I sending this to?
7.6, probably Mr. Vare. No. Lisa Petrocco, who is here in the gallery. Welcome to council, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for attending. Just a couple questions regarding the vacant unit rebate. There are no rebates to properties that are shopping malls and industrial tax industrial places. Is that true in the report?
Yes, there was changes made back in, through your mayor, Mr. Bruni. There was changes passed through council through a resolution on making the changes of excluding shopping centers, industrial properties, putting the restriction of 3 applications within 10 years and adding a temporary use clause.
Okay, and I guess my question that I'm kind of puzzled with is, what about vacant homes? Do they receive a rebate? Or this has nothing, would this have anything to do with the vacant homes that we have in our city?
Through your mayor to Council Bruni, no, this is strictly for commercial properties.
Okay, but it did say something about vacant homes. If I bring it up, maybe I misread it, or it could be the other one. Taxes. 1 second. The city has administered its vacant unit rebate program in accordance with the requirements of 28, the regulation. So this is just strictly for industrial,
Commercial.
just commercial,
Yes.
nothing to do with industrial? Just asking.
Through your mayor to Council Bruni, as I said earlier, the changes that we made through a resolution in 2017 eliminated industrial properties as well as shopping centers.
Okay, and just to go back, nothing to do with the vacant housing, houses that we have in our city right now.
Through
They don't
Mr. Mayor,
benefit,
to
they
Council,
don't benefit.
absolutely not. No, commercial properties only.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And anyone else on 7.6, Councillor Dufour?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is through you to Ms. Petracco. Sorry, Lisa, you'd already sat down. Ms. Petracco, if you could just confirm for us, please. Does this change in bylaw here tonight allow the city to ensure that any and all commercial units receiving a vacancy rebate do not have outstanding infractions with the building or bylaw department?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council Dufour, yes, there's a reference to ensuring that all applicants are in good standing with city bylaws.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Glad to see it.
Anyone else on 7.6? Seeing none, Councillor Bruni, any other matters?
Agenda 7.11 Tourism Development Fund. The one I'm interested in, well, they're all very interesting, but the curling, who would be able to answer? Would this be held at the GFL?
Mr. Anderson is.
Mr. Anderson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, it would be held at the curling club up on Anita Street.
Okay, not the GFL.
No.
Okay, thank you. Just curious, 32 teams, why wouldn't it be at the GFL?
They're able to accommodate it at the club, and it's their preferred location.
Okay. That's it for me.
Anyone else on 7.11? Anyone else with matters on consent? Councillor Dufour?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I can ask about an item that's been exempted from consent due to conflict.
Yes.
Okay. So 7.10, the Transit Pass Partnership. Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Lamming. Mr. Lamming, could you share a little bit about what the vision is for what the future of these programs might entail for high school students in our community and their exposure to city transit?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Dufour, the first part of the partnership stem with Algoma District School Board with respect to their life skills program. This partnership is expanding now to the Catholic School Board for their life skills program, in addition to their newcomers that are arriving as well. We do foresee building upon this in the future, and with their discussions, there's been pilots in Kingston have expanded it to multi-grade. So that'd be something we'd be looking at going forward. So we're just cautious if we were to roll it out to a full grade, what that impact is on foregone revenue. So for example, if you introduced it to all grade 9 students, you're approximately having to take into consideration the impact of around $100,000. So we want to just roll it out in a in a cautious fashion, but we're really excited to see Goma District School Board and the Huron-Superior Catholic District School Board be great partners in this initiative for city transit.
Thanks, Mr. Laming. Do we have an approximate timeline when council might be able to hear more about or consider an expansion of this program to hopefully cover grade 9 students?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Dufour, yes, we do hope to report back on the pilot for both school boards and make a request next year with how we would expand it further.
Next year. Sounds great. Really looking forward to it, Mr. Laming. I think it's great work that we're doing, working with school boards. And I think that expanding this access to grade 9 students to get them comfortable and familiar with city transit could yield a lot of potential for both us and the school board. Thank you.
Anyone else on 7.11? Seeing none, Councillor Dufour, any on the items on consent? Councillor Dufour, any other items on consent?
No more items. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth?
Thank you. On consent, where did it go? 7.2 municipality significant events. I'm directing this question through you, Mayor, to our legal person, I mean, Melanie. I believe this is more of her question. Just a quick question. I know that we're saying that we're going to be asking for X dollars for insurance to make sure that we're protected. In the application process, do we have anything on the application that further protects us? For example, if the event is more than 100 people, and we know that there's drinking involved, is there anything on the application that we have that will protect ourselves more? Where they're going to properly have smart serve individuals at the event or any other security.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth. When these forms are completed, it will certainly be vetted by the clerk's office. The circulation will be made. So if any concerns are highlighted, we'll certainly liaise with the applicant to address any of those particular issues that might arise. This at least provides a framework to see what information we receive, but certainly if there's any concerns, we will address those with the individual applicants.
Okay, I thought so, but I just wanted to confirm. Thank you. That's all on this item.
Anyone else on 7.2? Seeing none. Councillor Hollingsworth, any other items?
7.8 tax policy and rates.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor, to Ms. Shelley Shell. Michelle, I understand that this is not new to us as council, but I just want to ask a question for the viewers at home. We as council are always concerned about taxes for residents, industry, commercial, and so forth. Can you just confirm that this is something that we are always concerned about? And I believe in 3 years is going to be reviewed or something like that?
To Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, back in November 21st, 2016, council actually approved our long-term tax policy. And then it was reviewed by an outside consultant in 2018 after there and confirmed our direction that was taken when we set the rates. The idea is that whenever we get a reassessment, the policy will be revisited in case there's shifts in the tax burden, et cetera, and reestablish it and report back to council. The reassessment has been deferred for the last 3 years. Last we heard that we might have the reassessment for our 2024 tax year, but nothing's been confirmed yet.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful for all those that are watching. Thank you. That's all on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. It's nice to see actually that the tax, the levy increase went down as a result of the tax rate setting. So that was a nice change from years past. Any other matters, Councillor Hollingsworth?
The last one is 7.15 traffic calming policy.
Mm-hmm.
First, start with a comment. I think having this on tonight's agenda sends a strong message to the community that we as council are taking speeding very seriously, and that we are working very hard on ensuring that a strategy is being looked at. And so having said that, It's more of a comment that we do thank those that are emailing us and calling us with suggestions. And I want to also say thank you to staff and to the committee for working on this. And I know that there's going to be some more ideas coming down the pipeline with regards to calming strategies and policies. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on 7.15? Okay, seeing none. Any other matters on consent, Councillor Hollingsworth? Anyone else with matters on consent? Okay, so I've got 2, maybe 3. First, 7.14, I believe it is. No questions. I just wanted to congratulate the Ermitanger Clerg National Historic Site, or the Old Stone House, as we more commonly refer to it as, on having an excellent year. They are within a hair of being back to their pre-pandemic visitor levels. And hopefully they'll hit it this year. So looking forward to next year's report, but excellent report this year. Then changes to the temporary outdoor patios through me, I guess, to Miss Borowitz-Sibinick or Mr. King. Oh, Jeff, thanks for coming. Council in past years had reduced the insurance requirement from $5 million to $2 million for these outdoor patios, and I'm seeing in the report that the recommendation is to increase it to $5 million again. And I'm wondering why that is so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to yourself. The idea being is that now we're actually the approval body. So the city will not only be turning to the AGCO to suggest you've licensed this establishment, now there's a fixed patio to it. Essentially, you'll see the planning department looking directly at that patio and its layout and saying you're good to extend your license onto that patio. So that being a consideration, as well as it's always been and continues to be the city's provider's recommendation that it be 5 million, that we've included that as part of the recommendation to be increased.
If I recall correctly, and perhaps you can tell me if my recollection is wrong, the recommendation in 2020, when council directed that the insurance requirement be lowered to 2 million, was to keep it at 5 million, was it not? Staff's recommendation?
Correct. It's always been to keep it at 5 million. Yes. It was a council's election to put it to 2 million at that time.
Right. Okay. And so if we chose to lower it to 2 million again, your recommendation would be the same, that it ought to be at 5 million.
Yes. So our recommendation is based off of what the insurance provider is suggesting as an industry best practice to have it at 5 million because alcohol is being served on that patio. Certainly.
And in the last 2.5 to 3 years that we've had the lower insurance amount, have we had any claims brought against us for that would be covered by this type of insurance?
It's my understanding through the city solicitor that we have not had any claims related to that over those couple of years.
Okay. Councillor Pina, did you have a question on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did some looking into this with some local insurance providers and experts as well. And I do appreciate the position. 5 million is basically the recommended floor on what people should provide. I think it's important for businesses to know that their premiums will not be based on anything that we decide here what the minimum standard should be. Their premiums are going to be based on their own sales and on, in particular, on what percentage of their sales will be based on alcohol. So I know we've had a few restaurants who have said, hey, listen, I don't want to pay the premiums for the $5 million policy. Well, really and truly, that's not going to be up to us to decide. That's going to be based on it's going to be evidence-based from what their sales are. And really and truly, that is an industry standard right now that I can see out across Ontario. So I do appreciate you bringing it forward. And I know that businesses who are not primarily serving alcohol as part of their day-to-day won't really feel the pinch, so to speak, on the cost because it will be directly related to their sales.
I think that from my point of view, having it at 2 million is more than sufficient to be reviewed every now and then. And I don't think there is a real need to put it out of reach for people. I know Councillor Spina is suggesting it's based on volume, but I'd hate to see someone trying to get started with an outdoor patio having to incur the additional cost when they're kind of road testing this. And so having, if their volume is enough that they're at 5 million anyways, they'll far exceed our requirements. I know that it was brought in 2020 as a recommend, or as a, not a recommendation, but council directed it in 2020 to help our patios financially, to help our restaurants and businesses financially, because they couldn't open at the time. So having the insurance in place could have been a barrier to them establishing outdoor patios. So I think it's working the way it currently is, and we ought to keep it the way it currently is, which is $2 million. And then revisit it if it becomes an issue. But until we see the need to revisit it or increase it to 5 million, I don't think we ought to unnecessarily. So I'd be certainly wanting to see council move and second an amendment to reduce it to 2 million. Councillor Hollingsworth, is that you're expressing your willingness to?
Yes, I will definitely support that.
Councillor Bruni, you're seconding that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Dufour. Yeah, okay. Question, Councillor Dufour through
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. King. Mr. King, I just want to be clear on the change to private property approvals. Now that the city and the planning department is going to be giving approvals on private property patios, am I correct in understanding that previously patios on private property would have had to have their own internal insurance requirement, not one set by the city insurance, and now they will in addition to the indemnity clause? Or is it either or, the insurance or the indemnity clause? Can you just clarify that for me?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, what we're looking at on the private side is certainly if it's a temporary patio, so that's in place for less than 8 months, having them execute a waiver, which would protect the city. And additionally, that waiver is not finalized, but the idea would be as well carrying insurance in support of the language behind the waiver, or coverage of 5 million that would be equal to that of public or private property. Yes.
Okay, so it's the waiver and the insurance. Should this go forward? Previously, was it just whatever insurance that private business owner would have required just as a condition of their own business insurance?
So correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, all the previous dealings would have been directly with the AGCO for approval of patios on private property. So now they're coming to the city, and the city is reviewing that patio and qualifying it as being available for alcohol service.
Do we know what insurance requirement the AGCO was previously requiring of private patio owners?
We did make that request to them while we had met with them previously, and there was just no such requirement. So they would keep it to the private entity to carry its appropriate limits as they felt fit.
Okay, so it would be reasonable then for us to assume that there could be some private patio owners who previously were not subject to this requirement for insurance, who, should this pass in its current form, would be. Is that reasonable?
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Dufour, that's correct.
Okay. Thanks. And my last question I'd asked you previously, would there be an ability for staff to consider a tiered approach in terms of the insurance requirements, where smaller volume or smaller size patios, like I'm thinking there's some downtown patios that are literally 2 or 4 little bistro tables, whereas we have some private property patios elsewhere in the community that probably seat 150 people, depending on how many it has. Have we given a consideration to having a tiered approach with the insurance requirement, obviously requiring more insurance for larger, higher volume patios, and having that still 2 million requirement for the ones that just aren't generating that same level of risk because of their lower volume?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Dufour, we have not considered that. The idea being that the recommendation from the provider was that because the service of alcohol is a consideration, to go to 5 million.
Yeah.
Certainly, if there is an appetite for it, we could look at smaller scale patios and setting a baseline for those being at 2 million, and larger size patio of a certain volume to be a higher rate, to find a balance between the two limits here that are being suggested.
So we are able, if we wanted to do that? like there's no legal, nothing standing in the way from the AGCO or the Planning Act from preventing that?
To my three, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, my understanding is there are no legal ramifications to not providing for insurance in these circumstances. It is an industry best practice to have that amount.
Yeah.
And that's why you're hearing that recommendation from staff tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. I really appreciate it. I think I understand it now. For my part, Mr. Mayor, I think that the tiered approach makes a lot of sense to me. I think that, you know, well, you certainly are correct that 2 million has worked for the last 2.5 years and we haven't had any issues. You know, the nature of insurance is simply that you don't need it until it's already too late, right? And with the addition of some of these larger private lots, I can see at least more of an understanding of why we would like need $5 million in insurance. You know, something that's located on the Trans-Canada Highway is to me pretty qualitatively different than something small on the frontage of a downtown store. So my preference personally would be to find something that reflects that, but I'll leave it to council to decide. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got no particular objection to doing it in a tiered way. I've been informed by our clerk, our clerk, used to be our clerk, our CAO that the way to go about doing this is to pass a resolution asking staff to bring an amended bylaw to us at the next meeting. Now, I think what's been moved is to reduce it to 2 million, but would there be any objection to ask staff to review the insurance requirement and bring back some a recommendation in line with what the discussion has been today? Councillor Bruni, any opposition to?
No, the only thing is, would this delay some of the owners that want to set up a patio? Would they be able to still do it, or do they have to wait until this is passed?
Mr. CAO? Mr. Tenazzo?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, it would delay so the, you know, patios can start opening this month. Today's actually, I believe, the opening day. So we are dealing with a number of applicants that are awaiting tonight's decision. So there would be a delay, certainly, of at least 3 weeks.
Yeah. I disagree. I don't want to see the delay. I mean, these businesses are ready to open up.
So if we pass it as it is today, it's $5 million insurance, unless we amend it on the spot.
Well, that's what I voted.
Yeah.
I seconded to amend it.
So I suspect that that probably has support, but could we, Mr. CAO, ask for a report to be brought back at a future council day? I guess it's not that pressing if we pass the bylaw today. And then we can kind of amend it as necessary. May require grandfathering some people in this year, but we will have a better sense of things for patios that come after the next meeting, or ones that apply again next year.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and council, or to you, I suggest passing the bylaw tonight in its current form, because especially with the looking at a tiered approach, that's going to require a bit of thought on our part as to how that might work. So we would need to bring a report to you as well for the next meeting. So if you pass the bylaw tonight, we can patio owners can go ahead and get their go through the approval process. And then based on what we come up with for the next meeting, we may amend things.
Councillor Hollingsworth, and then Councillor Cardy.
Thank you. So if I understand this correctly, through you, Mayor, to Mr. White, that you're saying we should just go ahead and pass the current bylaw at 5 million. Is that what I'm hearing? Instead of us, Councillor Bruni and I doing the amendment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, just from a procedural perspective, it's preferable not to amend a bylaw on the fly at a council meeting. You normally would pass a resolution as to what you want the changes to be, and then have the bylaw brought to the next meeting. Council can override that concern if it wishes and just ask that the change be made to 2 million. We will, in the interim time, while you're discussing other things, make the change to the bylaw resolution and the bylaw. And we can proceed on that matter. We won't be able to address the tiered approach until we'd have to bring a report and a recommendation at the next meeting.
So it brings me to a couple more questions. So right now you're saying we have applications in hand and these individuals are waiting for a decision tonight. I can make an assumption that these people that filled out the applications probably had the patios last year, probably assumed that it's going to be a 2 million versus 5 million insurance.
I would have to ask the planning director to comment on that. I don't see the applications myself.
Okay, so can we have a comment on that, please? Can we assume that the people that applied were looking at probably the 2 million based on like last year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, we haven't had formal applications. We've been pre-consulting on them and we've been letting them know that the insurance is still up in the air. We don't know what that amount will be. And I just wanted to note my error. It's actually May 15th is when the patio season technically opens, although it will take us a little bit of time to process because they're virtually all of them are renewing this year. And then it takes them some time to mobilize, as well as sort out any insurance concerns that there might be. But certainly waiting the 3 weeks could impact their ability to open.
Okay, so that brings me to the next question. Through you, Mayor, back to our planning director. So we have some small patios that maybe can't afford. I know Councillor Sunny made his point, or Spina, but we still have patio owners that can only afford 2 million, and they may have to pull their application or not even apply until we figure out the 5 million and giving them a disadvantage. Meaning that they won't be able to open up right away. So my question is this: how are we going to ensure we grandfather those that we're looking at the 2 million insurance mark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, essentially what we've been telling folks is that whatever gets decided tonight, we will communicate that out this week. So we've left it somewhat open that it could be 2 million or it could be 5 million.
It's in our hands, Councillor Hollingsworth.
So I can appreciate Mr. White's comment that we don't usually change a bylaw, but I would like to put on the table still as the person moving it to be 2 million. And if Councillor Bruni is still willing to second it, and then that gives us more time for staff to do the tier approach as Councillor Dufers. But right now, I just want to really support the small businesses, and I would like to move forward. That is 2 million.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Gardy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. King. Mr. King, like province-wide or comparator communities, is it 5 million for the most part?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, that's correct. 5 million is the going rate for alcohol service and what's being asked.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. King, are you aware of any other communities who have reduced the 5 million to 3 million or 2 million?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, I'm not.
So, I appreciate that we reduced it to 2 million, and I think we did it in the midst of the pandemic to give our business owners a bit of a break and to get things going sooner rather than later. I am going to be supportive of the 5 million position as recommended by legal for the sheer fact that that's what they feel that we need to kind of protect the community, and it seems to be the going policy province-wide. So I will not be voting to support a 2 million reduction to 2 million. Thanks.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question, I guess, procedurally. If we vote to not approve the recommendation in the report, then what happens? Like just straight up vote against it, not amend anything?
Well, the bylaw would fail, and then there would be no patio bylaw.
So people wouldn't be able to have an outdoor patio then? Would that be the case? Or would it just be, what would happen? It's kind of my question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott, we would have no approval path then if the bylaw failed until such time as we brought a new bylaw forward. As Mr. King has pointed out, and the report points out, we do have a material difference this time in that we are the approval authority, not AGCO, even for private property patios.
So basically we should do something. Okay, that's good to know. That was my question.
Okay. Councillor Spina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. First, I understand we have not been, we've not seen any action, correct, Mr. King? We have not received any action against the city since these patios have been up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Spina, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. However, I have to state, I mean, industry standards are there for a reason. We may not have been the subject of any of these proceedings across the province in the last year or two, but industry standards exist because they see these things happening across the province in different areas, and they set they set the bar for us so that everyone is on the same playing field and everybody knows what potentially is coming down the pipe. So when we look at the professional insurance industry looking at us and saying, this is what we suggest for you, I think it's important for us to listen to them when they're making that statement, because although we haven't been the subject of it, somewhere someone has, and they're saying, this is what we believe you need to be safe in your coverage. So I really think it's important for us to listen to that. In my research, what I found was that the approximate cost per million of coverage was about $100 a year when you're serving alcohol. Now, certainly you can't take that quote to anybody and give it to them. I'm not a certified provider, but that's roughly the quote. That's roughly the estimate that I got. So we're only asking for coverage that may cost another few $100s a year for individuals on top of whatever their current coverage is. I think that that's probably reasonable in my estimation for the business that they're going to be generating. And I think it's important for us to make sure that we're going to be covered if and when we need it. I forget who, but one of our colleagues here tonight said, you don't really worry about your insurance coverage until the day that you need it. And when you need it, you want to make sure you have the best coverage you possibly can. This is not just for us in the city, for our own personal coverage. This is for everybody. This is for patrons. This is for businesses. This is the best for everybody. One of the things I think we could amend as we were looking at it is businesses that do not serve alcohol potentially could be something that is on that tiered system. So something like a $3 million coverage for someone who doesn't serve alcohol and the $5 million for people who serve. So I guess my question on that would be to CEO White. Is that something that potentially could be amended today where we said, $5 million for establishments that serve alcohol, $3 million for people who do not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Spina, it is something we can look at. What I'm going to suggest, I think we've heard from almost all of council. I'm not sure if anyone else is going to speak right now. Councillor Bruni. Maybe we'll let whatever other discussion is going to happen. Then what I'm going to suggest is you move on to the next item. We'll accept this from consent, and the clerk and I will draft a motion that you can deal with, as well as the bylaw. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor?
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Bruni? Okay.
Mr. White.
I would just add in terms of comments to what Councillor Spina was talking about and touching on Councillor Dufour's points. I think having the baseline as 2 million, it practically provides a tiered approach, because you may have a smaller patio that doesn't require 5 million, but when you're going to get into a larger patio, it's most likely that their own insurance provider will require them to have 5 million in insurance, depending on the volume, like Councillor Spina said, size of the patio, number of patrons, things of that nature. Having it at 5 million doesn't provide that flexibility. So their own insurance provider may require them to be at 5 million. So we may not be doing anything special, but us only requiring it at the $2 million baseline provides the flexibility for those whose own insurance company wouldn't otherwise require it to be at 5 million. So that said, we will move on while everybody gets hard to work at trying to figure out what the consensus is here. That was everybody on consent. Yeah. So, Madam Clerk, do we have a consent to bylaw or consent to motion to vote on?
So a motion by councillors Bruni and Caputo resolved that all items listed under date May 1st, 2023, agenda item 7, consent agenda, save and accept agenda item 7.10, 7.11, and 7.18 be approved as recommended.
All in favor? Motion carries.
And then I'll just go to 7.10. And this is a motion by councillors Bruni and Caputo resolved that the report of the Director of Community Services dated May 1st, 2023 concerning expanded transit pass partnership with Huron Superior District School Board be received, and that 1-year pilot program be approved to coincide with the Algoma District School Board pilot program that runs through until June 30th, 2024.
All in favor? Motion carries.
And 7.11 is Tourism Development Fund applications. And I have a motion by councillors Bruni and Caputo resolved that the report of the Director of Tourism and Community Development Fund dated May 1st, 2023 concerning Tourism Development Fund applications received March through April 2023 be received, and that the recommendation of the Tourism Sault Ste. Marie Board of Directors to allocate $77,830 be approved to the following projects: Canadian Youth Championship National Bowling Tournament at $2,500, Community Strong Festival at $5,000, Curling Classic $53,000, Voyageur Trail Association $6,330, Sault Ste. Marie Kennel Club $3,000, Ontario Pickleball Championship Series $3,000, and Queen Street Cruise $5,000. And that's open for voting or
all in favor? Motion carries. They are not opening for voting on my screen. So
oh, okay. I will see in the background there. Okay.
So that brings us, I believe, to, well, we'll skip over 7.18 for a little bit while everyone works on it, but that will bring us to 8.6.1.
That's correct. There is no motion on 8.6.1 as it is a bylaw, and I'll.
Okay, so council, I imagine there are probably questions on this. Floor is open. Councilor Bruni.
Question to Mr. King, I guess. First of all, I'd like to say I thank Mr. King for providing 2 open houses that were very well supported. I know there were several councillors that attended at least one of them. So I do notice your map. Unfortunately, it's not as clear as it could be, but I'm just not 100% sure. I'm trying to bring it up here. Maybe, yeah, maybe you can help us. Maybe put it on the screen there, if it's possible, and maybe you can give us a little bit of an outline. I do notice the gray area where they're not prohibited. It's the red dotted lines. If you can please explain, if possible.
Sure, certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, the map as proposed in both bylaws, so be it the proposed off-road vehicle bylaw or the motorized snow vehicle bylaw, has primarily what's a grayed area on it. That grayed out area would represent the prohibited area where snowmobiles or off-road vehicles, be them ATVs or side-by-sides, would be prohibited from operating in the city of Sault Ste. Marie. The red lines that protrude from that area represent primarily Great Northern Road, second line, and then a portion of Trunk Road, which are additional arteries that would be prohibited for off-road vehicle use. And there is an affixed schedule that lays out that boundary using language or the streets that are covered to establish that boundary that you would not be able to operate based off the proposed map. Not sure if that answers your question or gives.
Yes. Thank you. Also, sidewalks. I know in the city there are off-road vehicles, snow machines, etc., that use the sidewalks. sidewalks are prohibited, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bruni, that is correct. So you cannot use a sidewalk in the city of Sault Ste. Marie for a motorized piece of equipment unless it's an accessibility or mobility device.
Okay, thank you. And for noise, it says 11 PM to 8 AM. They're not allowed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bruni, that's correct. There is a curfew set for those hours.
Okay, and also the age. How do they have, how can they be to use an off-road vehicle or a snow machine? Is there a certain age?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Rudy, there is an age for operating both devices. Specifically, provincial legislation sets that age at 16 years of age, so you should have an operator's permit. And the bylaw mirrors that legislation to ensure that individuals are 16 years of age or older and are properly licensed or a class license in order to operate on those roads.
Okay, and who would monitor this? Would it be the police services?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bruni, yes, correct. Police Services is the enforcement agency that we've liaised with and that would be enforcing this bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Bruni. Anyone else with questions on 8.6.1? Councilor Dufour?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if this is through you to Mr. King or folks in Public Works. I was just wondering, is there a signage plan to communicate some of these boundaries to riders who are on the roads?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Dufour, there was no consideration given for signage specifically. The regulations don't require them. So even when you look at the stipulation in the bylaw for a reduced speed, that carries primarily on the language of the bylaw. So constituents are to be aware of what the bylaw is and what it reads. That certainly will follow with education piece. The way the bylaw has been laid out is that we would carry on with the existing snowmobile bylaw until such time as the provincial court orders short form wording to come in that would allow police to ticket individuals. And likewise with the off-road vehicle bylaw, there'd be a period of time for some education before strict enforcement of that comes into play. So that would again require liaising with Sault Ste. Marie Police to make sure that's happening. Of course, if there are situations that are extreme, officers could definitely step in and look at other pieces of legislation to apply to them in that situation.
Okay, would we be able to look at providing signage at a high volume turnoff points? Like, for instance, maybe even like a copy of the map at the staging area or places where trails exit onto streets, just to ensure that hopefully folks are aware?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Dufour, certainly something that we could work with the group at tourism in terms of education and getting some appropriate signage out there and make sure that individuals are aware where they're riding, and certainly if they're coming to the community that they're aware of the bylaw and its requirements. Could also share that there is a website that is run by the Off-Road Vehicle Federation where all the community bylaws are posted there. So patrons that are attending from outside of the community can familiarize themselves with the local legislation.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else with questions on this matter? Councilor Caputo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. King, are we proposing them, these vehicles riding in the lane, or are you having, like, are we envisioning this happening in the bicycle lane or?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Caputo, the idea with this bylaw is that it's for on-road use. The way it's set out is that you would operate as close to the right as possible. Now, if there is a bike lane, technically should be just outside of that bike lane because those lanes are reserved for cyclists, and operate in a live lane of traffic. So you would avoid use of sidewalks as previously discussed, but certainly, yes, a live lane of traffic, be it defined by the lines that are painted there for use normal by cars and other vehicles permitted on the road.
Okay, are there other municipalities that are currently doing this, like that are allowing these types of vehicles on their roads?
As through Mayor Shoemaker to Councilor Caputo. From our research, what we found is in terms of communities in the Algoma district, there are 3, Sault Ste. Marie being one of them, that does not have an off-road vehicle bylaw. And there is the 2 other ones, which are quite smaller communities that I think have one stretch of highway that goes through them. For the most part, every other northern community has passed a like bylaw that allows off-road vehicles to be permitted on roads. For the snowmobile aspect of it, they are permitted by legislation to be on roads, save and except for areas that the municipality excludes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. King, is there a specific insurance requirement to putting these vehicles on the road?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Caputo, there are insurance requirements for both off-road vehicles and the snowmobiles. Those requirements are stipulated in the provincial legislation and have been carried over into the bylaw as well to make sure that motorists operating on the highway do have that documentation if stopped by police and requested of it, requested for that paperwork.
Okay, my last thing is just kind of a comment, maybe a question, maybe you can help me with it, but the thing I am concerned about is safety of these riders. My personal safety, I really don't want to be in a car accident with someone on a snow machine or an ATV. So when I think about our roads in the Soo, in the wintertime, when you're saying as far to the right as you can be, sometimes there is no far right. There is only the lane. So I'm really concerned about safety here. Myself driving an LRG SUV, I worry about being able to see these people. Someone zipping by. I know we're saying there's going to be speed limits, but as we all know, these toys can be fun and going fast can be fun. And it can also be really dangerous. So do we have any, I guess we're putting as much provision as we can into this, but is there a history for these types of accidents or anything we can do to try to prevent it if this does get passed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Caputo, I would suggest certainly safety is always a concern with any type of equipment operated on a highway, and that is essentially the purpose of the Highway Traffic Act is to make sure that all motorists are safe in using the road, and proper enforcement of it is certainly important. By passing these two proposed bylaws, one of which that has been in place since '69, so the snowmobile have been permitted to operate in I would say a similar zone. The zone proposed is slightly reduced from that zone, but that has occurred for quite some time and is quite a local practice that has been ongoing with from what I understand, few claims that have been made directly to the city to say that there are not off-road vehicle accidents or snowmobile vehicle accidents that have occurred in the city will be a lie. There certainly have been incidents that have been recorded and that we've had individuals inquire at the city about and certainly inquire about whether or not there is a bylaw in place. What we've done to try and mitigate those safety concerns as much as possible through the written legislation of both bylaws is to mirror the provincial requirements for safety equipment to ensure that those vehicles are operating slowly. And obviously we can't control everyone that steps or sits onto one of these pieces of equipment, but the idea being is that there is a clear playbook as to how they should be operated if using the privilege of driving on our streets.
Yeah. So for me personally, I worry about enough about people on motorcycles, and I think about seems similar to me, except I think about now them being put to my right, which seems even scarier to me, driving on a road with a vehicle on my right. So yeah. This seems a little frightening to me, I'll be honest, but that's all the comments and questions I have.
Thank you, Councillor Caputo. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Through your mayor to Mr. King. First, I want to comment that I was happy to see that a subtitle climate was on here, that we're being conscious of climate. And that you mentioned about how the snowmobiles and these vehicles will be hopefully more friendly to the climate, but it's nice that we're being conscious. Here's my question. If I read your report correctly, I believe you stated in the report that these vehicles of choice are of choice by the disabled because of their ease of use. And so therefore, I believe that it gives them an opportunity to have some more freedom, to have some more chance to get around our community. Did I read that statement correct in your report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth. So the original resolution that was passed through council in 2012 did speak to an individual that had modified a side-by-side for use for themselves. And the challenge was essentially loading that device onto a trailer to get to the trail system. And that kind of sparked the appetite to consult through staff and see if the legislation allowed that type of equipment. So be it a side-by-side on off-road vehicles or on roads, sorry. So allow those off-road vehicles on roads. They were at the time prohibited under provincial legislation, permitted as of 2015. And certainly through the accessibility committee, they do support passing of the bylaw to allow access to roads so that that barrier of loading up the equipment onto a trailer to get to a trail system can be overcome by allowing the individual to leave from their driveway if they're in an area where the road is permitted.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying that it's another removal of a barrier for those that are basically accessible. It makes it a little bit easier for those that need accessibility.
Through you, Mayor Shoemaker, to Councillor Hollingsworth, that's correct, yes.
Okay, so once again, we're removing one of those barriers, being more friendly to those that are constrained. That's a positive. And if my understanding is correctly, you said just a few minutes ago that there was a snowmobile bylaw in place already.
That's correct. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, in 1969, there was a original snowmobile bylaw passed that prohibited snowmobiles in certain areas of the city. And it was certainly amended over time. And the last amendment to it was in 94.
Okay, thank you again. I support this because according to your map, is not getting to the core area. It's basically just highlighting those areas that already have accessibility to most of these type of vehicles. Thank you. A lot of work we're done, so thank you.
Councillor Gardy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So just so I'm clear, if I'm interpreting your map correctly, areas west of Gooley Avenue, including those in Bayview like Glasgow and Pittsburgh and Spadina, north of Second Line, west of Gooley, Broadview, St. Michael Square, Rushmere, those streets, this would be permitted, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, yes, the boundary that's presented in that area would be coming up Wallace Terrace, where it intersects with Second Line, and then streets at the outside parameters of that would be permitted, with the dividing line being Second Line, but you are permitted to cross any road at a 90-degree angle pursuant to provincial legislation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just bringing concerns that have been brought forward to me over the course of my term on council. More than anything, it's the responsibility of those who ride these vehicles to do so within the parameters of the laws in place. I know that there are places around residents around Holy Family School on Rushmere and Broadview. There are families and residents around Glasgow Park and Lake Zook Park who often complain of people driving these types of vehicles and others recklessly. And whatever Sioux Police Service can do to help us with this would be beneficial. I appreciate the tourism component as it relates to the areas where they can travel, especially snowmobiles, obviously. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it's a going concern. A lot of the area that Councillor
Councillor Scott and I represent is very rural in nature, and I know it's conducive to these types of vehicles. But there is a going concern in some of our more residential areas that we represent, and I'm hopeful that the liberty that we're providing isn't abused and isn't compounding the problem. But thanks for letting me speak.
Thanks, Councillor Gardy. Anyone else? Okay, well, this is a bylaw that we have to pass, so we will read it with the bylaws. But I understand there is a amendment prepared to 7.18. So, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. King.
Sorry about that. I'll just read the motion as prepared. A motion by Councillors Hollingsworth and Bruni resolved that the insurance requirements for outdoor patios listed in bylaw 2023-71 Schedule A, Section 13 be amended from 5 million to 2 million, and further that staff be directed to review the possibility of implementing a tiered approach to insurance requirements for patios and report back to the next meeting of council.
Okay, all in favor?
Oh, I'm going to open that for voting. Let's
Good.
see this one. There we go.
Okay, all in favor? 2, 3, 5. Any opposed? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 3. Okay, motion carries.
And Councillor Spina and Gardy in
And Dufour.
and Dufour. Okay, in the negative. And I just would make a note when we open the bylaw, Councillor Caputo has also indicated a conflict on the bylaw.
Yes. All right, that brings us to 9.1.
I have a motion by Councillor Spina and Hollingsworth. Whereas the city of Sault Ste. Marie has a long and celebrated history with the Sioux Greyhounds Hockey Club, and whereas Sioux Greyhounds hockey events provide an entertaining and engaging atmosphere for residents of and visitors to Sault Ste. Marie, and whereas attendance at Sioux Greyhounds hockey events have a positive impact on our community and our economy by attracting visitors to Sault Ste. Marie, increasing nights of hotel stays, helping to build a sense of community and pride in our community, helping to build a brand sense with the hockey club, as well as a sense of tradition and pride for the hockey club and its supporters, allowing for fans and supporters to be surrounded by and to create their own entertainment related to the sporting events, helping to increase the social interactions of people in our community. And whereas other communities have created an environment for tailgating to form part of their culture and have been able to safely allow for tailgating at events in their community, and whereas ownership of the Sioux Greyhounds Hockey Club are supportive of the city creating a tailgating environment for fans to help enhance the fan experience, and whereas the city of Sault Ste. Marie is responsible for parking at the GFL Memorial Gardens and will be able to generate revenue for the city by charging a reasonable fee for access to tailgating parking spots for sporting events. Now therefore be it resolved that staff be requested to review the process to allocate and rent or provide parking spaces at the GFL Memorial Gardens and create a tailgating environment for a limited number of Sioux Greyhounds home games. In that review, staff would engage with the Sioux Greyhounds Hockey Club and other stakeholders in order to create a positive fan environment. In addition, staff report on the ability for the city to provide free bus service, perhaps by showing a game ticket, to and from the GFL Memorial Gardens during these events for the transportation of people to and from the site.
Councillor Spina as the mover. You have anything to add?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for our community to get out and engage with each other and, really create that sense of culture and pride with our local sports teams. We've all kind of seen tailgating events. I've created tailgating events of my own, and the Women's Hockey League supporting my wife when she's out playing. We sit in the parking lot and have a great time, all the husbands and partners out there, and just have a great time. And I think something formal in our community can really entrench that sense of pride and tradition with our hockey club, and really get a lot of people out to enjoy the game. So I'm happy to bring this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth.
I was just really happy to support Councillor Spina's great idea, and it's one of many more of his ideas. So thank you for doing this.
Council, any other questions or comments on this matter? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries.
That will bring us to bylaws. And I've accepted item 12.1.12 for voting after. And under agenda item 12, consideration of passing of bylaws. I have a motion by councillors Bruni and Caputo. Resolve that all bylaws under item 12 of the agenda under date May 1st, 2023, save and accept item 12.1.12 be approved.
All in favor? Motion carries.
And had a conflict with Councillor Caputo, so I need a seconder for Councillor Hollingsworth. Thank you. Okay. And agenda item 12.1.12, a motion by councillors Bruni and Hollingsworth, resolve that bylaw 2023-71 being a bylaw to approve the standard form of an outdoor patio agreement and further to delegate to the Director of Planning and Enterprise Services or his or her delegate signing authority to execute same on behalf of the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and further make minor variations from the standard outdoor patio agreement and sidewalk patios requirements and guidelines to suit the needs of the particular user and circumstances, and further authorize and appoint the Director of Planning and Enterprise Services to extend a liquor license to a private temporary patio or a temporary patio on city property in accordance with section 153.1 of the Ontario Regulation 746/21 under the Liquor License and Control Act 2019 as amended, be passed as amended in open council this first day of May 2023. And I will open up for voting.
All in favor? Motion carries, or bylaw carries.
It's just catching up. We have a closed motion. Under agenda item 14, closed session, a motion by councillors Bruni and Caputo resolved that this council move into closed session to consider one item concerning a proposed disposition of land. Further, be it resolved that should the said closed session be adjourned, the council may reconvene in closed session to discuss the same matters without the need for a further authorizing resolution.
All in favor? Motion carries.
And under agenda item 15, adjournment, I have a motion by councillors Bruni and Zagordo resolve that this council now adjourn.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council.
Elaine.